Matt Higgins. Meet Matt Higgins. Matt is a noted serial entrepreneur, growth equity investor, as co-founder and CEO of private investment firm RSC Ventures. He is also vice chairman of Miami Dolphins, a recurring shark on ABC's 4-time Emmy award-winning TV show Shark Tank, and executive fellow at the Harvard Business School. Most importantly, Matt and I are both Queens College alum and very proud of it. And that's why you see me wearing this Queens College shirt here. To shout out to Queens College.
Somewhere in my room, I have, it's right behind me actually. Maybe you could see it. I have my honorary PhD from Queens College. Just saying.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, what class were you? You have your BA in political science.
I have my BA in political science. I think I was a class of 98. I mean, it hardly was a class because my class had long since gone. So it's more like a class of one since it took me 7 years to graduate. We can get into that. But yeah, I think 19.
That's amazing. I have exactly the same story. I finished up all of my coursework by, I think, 93 or 94. But I did not graduate till I think it was 99 or 2000 to actually go through the formal ceremony. And I ended up taking my wife with me. At the time I was going to college, I was not married, I was single, but I got married and then I took my wife to the graduation.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny. It's such a great little magical place, Queens College, right? I mean, for those who don't know, it's a CUNY school, but it's just a repository of hope for a lot of different people who are immigrants or come from poor circumstances. Like, if you don't have any money, it's tremendous value for your dollar. It's been ranked very high in various different, surveys. But more importantly for me, it was like salvation when I was a kid and taking care of my sick mother. So I just have a special place in my heart. But it took me 7 years. I was working 2 jobs. I have a lot of excuses. Some of these excuses are not valid. There are also a lot of F-ups. But most of it was that I was trying to hustle. But I have a special place in my heart. Sabir is representing Jerry Seinfeld. You may know him. He went there as well. And I got to deliver the commencement address last year at the school, which was amazing.
Sweet. That's amazing. To kind of move along, yep. I mean, you and I both grew up in Queens, and even one or two of your fellow sharks from Shark Tank also were raised in Queens. Yeah, no,
Damon John grew up in Queens. He grew up a couple of miles from me, and he's got an amazing story, scrabble story, working at Red Lobster and trying to go ahead and get funding for FUBU back in the day. But yeah, no, he and we've been great. It's funny how life changes. Right, here are 2 folks growing up in different circumstances, right? Of course, but growing up in Queens, and then about 5 months ago, we met at like 4:30 in the morning in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. We took out a boat, did what we both loved, which something we probably weren't doing when we were kids. We weren't going out fishing, and we just sailed around New York City in the dead of the morning, and we fished together. Random little tidbit for you, Sabir.
Awesome. I think I want to do that. So let's move forward. I mean, I did look through you and I have been working together on various different projects and stuff like that over the past several years now. But let's go, not in the past 3 years, let's go all the way back, I mean, you were involved in 9/11 and also the rebuilding of World Trade Center. The history is amazing. I mean, you have been not only you grew up in Queens, but you have helped Queens and you have helped New York City and businesses around New York City for quite a while. Just take us through that, please.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a little bit of my origin story for those who haven't heard it, but it's kind of a crazy story. Grew up in Queens, the Bayside, taking care of my mom, who was amazing, but we were really poor, and she had a bunch of illnesses. People always ask me, "What'd your mom have?" And it was, what do I say, from the Bible, like Trials of Job. She had pretty much everything afflict her, but just struggled with obesity because she had a glandular disorder, thyroid gland disorder, just a bunch of different things. But anyway, wow. So my life was always moving in 2 directions. On the one hand, I'm watching a mother try to triumph over her circumstances, and as an adult, incredibly smart, like genius level, but a high school dropout. I watched her sort of get her GED. Enroll in Queens College was the first time she had experienced really dignity as an adult. And the first time she had somebody tell her, like, you are very smart, right? Like when somebody first believes in you and gives you a little bit of feedback that inside your soul is probably true, but you need the validation. You need somebody that you respect to hold up a mirror to you. That happened at Queens College. My life is moving in that one direction. My mother's trying to redeem herself, but other times she's succumbing from her health issues, and they're compounding. And at a very young age, I learned a lot of things when I was in 7th grade, 8th grade. I started reflecting on the fact that there's this system operating around us that we don't opt into. It's imposed upon us. These are the rules of the system. Like, you will go to school, you will get your degree, then you'll go to college for 4 years, which is basically camp, and pay to go to camp. And then you'll get some job, whatever, right? And I always felt this otherness as a kid because I had this whole life of shame. I was living at home, living in a dirty apartment, just feeling depressed a lot, like sensing that we're just going to run out of money. So we say we had government cheese in the refrigerator, which is no exaggeration. We would take the bus to go to food pantries in different communities so nobody would see how poor we were. And so I got this feeling around 7th, 8th grade, like the system is not designed for me. So why am I submitting to a system that I didn't create that doesn't actually work? That was the thought I'd start pondering. I don't know where this defiance came from. And then I had an epiphany probably around 8th, 9th grade, more like end of 8th grade. Wait, what if I could accelerate everything? Like the law of compounding began to sort of reveal itself to me like it did to Warren Buffett, with different outcomes though. But like this notion that if I could get there faster earlier, right, I could get out of poverty and change the escape velocity that I'm currently on and get there a lot faster. The easiest way to do it is to become a college student, right? I'd look through the penny saver back then and see these ads for college students, and they'd make like $8 an hour. And I was making $3.75 an hour scraping gum at McDonald's and thinking like, there has to be a better way. And it's the first, I said, I don't care what everybody says and thinks. I'm going to torpedo my entire career, my life rather, my life. And I'm going to drop out of high school, but I'm going to make sure that I don't waver. So I'm going to get left back for the next 2 years in a row. And that's what I did. I would sit in the back of the room, put my head on the table. I'd get picked up by the truant police, hanging out at McDonald's, whatever. And I was like, and I would say to everybody, I have a plan. And everybody thought, you're kind of crazy. Like, who's this kid who's throwing his life away? Meanwhile, no one ever came to my house. So like I had a whole secret at home. And then when the moment of truth arrived, I dropped out of high school at 16, took my GED, took my SATs. And by September, I was in college at Queens College, right? And by the following May, I had finished my first year, was on the debate team, and went to my prom. So like in a course of 9 months, I watched how I could step outside the system, use unconventional thinking, and completely change my orientation. Now the teachers who were looking at me as a failure of the system were looking at me with pride, like, oh. And I tell people all this time, we have a muscle memory inside of us, except it's not muscle. It's the ability to sense our potential and to act on it before the world recognizes it. And that's the most loneliest place you'll ever occupy. It's like, I think I'm destined for something better. And I need to break out, but I need to act before anybody tells me I'm right. And that was my first time when I was in high school. I'm telling the whole story, but the reality is I start there. It set in motion a whole chain of events. And I can kind of pause there, but I would say the single most important thing that ever happened to me was that I grew up in poverty and dropped out of high school.
Oh, well, what high school did you go to?
I went to Cardozo. Go to is a use phrase. I mean, I think the only class I passed was typing. I always thought typing was so bad. I'll kick your ass on typing right now if anybody dares challenge me. I type over 90 words a minute. It's
wow.
like, yeah, because that was the one thing I was like, I think this is useful. I'm gonna crush this, and I learned how to type at a young age so I could communicate faster. But Cardozo was the school I went to, and then enrolled.
I actually went to the rival high school at John Bowne High School.
Oh, John Bowne. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a John Bowne alum also from a high school. So I went really far for college.
John Bowne was Flushing, right? Was that Flushing?
Yeah, John Bowne was Flushing, and it shares its backyard with Queens College.
I was born in Flushing, Flushing Hospital, now since destroyed, but I was born in Flushing. Inauspicious name, but great community, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has changed quite a bit. I grew up in Flushing, and the ethnicity and the mix of people from my childhood to now has tremendously changed, especially in the late 90s is when it started changing. When I was growing up, my neighborhood was completely Italian neighborhood, and now really? Flushing has become one of the largest Asian communities outside of Asia. So
it's funny. I took my kids there just to sort of experience. My dad's actually in a nursing home not far from Flushing, off of Main Street, and it was so fun to take my little girl, my boy, up and down the strip. We went to a Asian grocery store, and the kids were like amazing. And I was like, a lot better than it was when I was growing up.
Yeah, I mean, it just Main Street feels like when you walk down, it feels like you're in Beijing. It doesn't feel like you're in the United States.
I just love witnessing the struggle and transformation of immigrant communities and successive ways of immigrants coming into the United States and like working so hard. Like I worked for a Greek deli when I was a kid on Woodwood and Metropolitan. And here's this guy, Tom, shout out to Tom, wherever you are in there in Tula, and Kate, Kathy, I remember you all. But thinking like, here's this guy, immigrant, first generation, like scraped together, a couple nickels, put his money and was able to buy a little place called Quick Stop, stayed open 24 hours a day. Like holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, always there, had a little camera. They would live next door and have Thanksgiving. I would man the store, on holidays, and like just thinking, wow, if in this country is still great, that if you hustle, put the energy and you have the drive, you can make anything. We obviously there are things that hold us back that we're reconciling right now, thank God. But nonetheless, I'm still grateful that I was able to transcend. And when I walk into Flushing, I'm like, good for everybody, right? This is great. I'm glad. It's pretty amazing. All these, imagine what it's like to come from China and come to a country that actually has become very inhospitable, right? Because we're forgetting our origin story, sadly. Yeah. We'll rediscover our origin story. I go there and I'm just inspired to see what it's become.
Yeah, one of the odd jobs growing up that I had was actually restoring vintage and classical rugs by painting the threads that were lost over time.
Really?
That was one of my odd jobs that I have done as a kid.
Whereabouts were you doing it?
It was in New York City, and there's a Persian community that owns all of the vintage carpet that ends up being in museums, and collectors buy those pieces for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So cool. I was actually involved in restoring those vintage carpets and rugs.
My first two jobs, odd jobs, Queens related, were. Number one was working again for an Armenian family, Nazareth Abajian, if you're out there, wherever you are, and your dad. I would go to Roosevelt Field Mall, and I would stand on top of a van and sell leather handbags, $10. Not bad. So that was my first. And my other job was working for another immigrant, and I would sell flowers on street corners on holidays. So I'd walk into people's car. I was that kid, not quite a squeegee person, but somewhere like right. And I would do really well. But that was when I also figured out like math about that. It made more sense to own the business, to be the guy who bought the flowers at wholesale than it was to make the kids sell them, right? Like he'd buy them for $5 a bouquet and I would sell them for 15, whatever the number was. He'd pay me $5 an hour. I would sell, or $7 an hour, and he would sell, 10 through me. I'm thinking, well, the numbers are all upside. It's better to be the guy who buys the flowers wholesale than the one who sells them on street corners. But those guys, like even with my kids now, it's something that anybody who's been successful has to struggle with. You want to make sure that your kids are not alienated from where you came from, but you don't want to artificially manufacture strife either. I think that's nonsense, right? Like I don't want my children to suffer. I just want my children to benefit from all those great lessons that I learned from hard work, self-sufficiency, dignity. And I spent a lot of time meditating. Like I can't recreate the circumstances that necessitated that I sell flowers on street corners and handbags at flea markets. But I can kind of preserve the values. And I always ask, what are the essential values that one needs to live a dignified life? And I think it's to make sure that you never define your sense of self-worth by your material possessions, and you don't telegraph to your kids. So it's okay to have them, but not identify with them, nor care about them, nor need them. So I'm always trying to strike that. I probably know we're going on a philosophical detour, but now that we're reflecting on those first early jobs, I'm sure you think the same thing too, right? How do I make sure my kids are not alienated from me? Like, you rotten child, you're so spoiled. Mine are kids are wonderful with incredible values, but something I sort of think about and work on.
Yeah, I mean, our mutual friend, he's well known in the space, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. Right. Shout out to you, Gary V.
Gary, homage.
His number one concern about his kids, it's the environment that kind of he grew up in. It kind of makes your personality, builds your personality, it builds your DNA. And his number one concern, are my kids going to have that? Like if they're given their PlayStation, if they're given their Xbox, and they didn't have to do the lemonade stand, and they didn't have to go and work at wine library and so on and so forth, would they have the same sense of motivation and drive to actually go and do the thing that he did? Because that helps. That's a huge boost to personality when you fail and when you succeed in both kind of scenarios, and that kind of builds up your personality as an entrepreneur, as a person who manages things or works and any kind of role, however you are useful to society, you know.
It's funny, I have the opposite, and I heard people say that my number one concern is actually not that. Although I get that, and that's something to be mindful of. My number one concern is that I don't pass down the patterns that are operating upon me, that are governing on me subconsciously, to my children. Like, I don't want them to be victimized by the dysfunction that I grew up with in ways that I'm not aware of. You know what I mean? Like, and I see it creeping into my personality, like being a helicopter parent because I felt like I didn't have one. You know what I mean? Like, there's all this compensating behavior, and so I'm worried about the distortions that are sort of, you know, lying below the surface. And I don't want to look back at my children are sitting in therapy like, oh, Dad, you know, like he did this. I know that's why I'm for, you know, neurosis, but I'm more worried about that. So I'm constantly sort of reflecting like, oh, wait, is this a pattern? Like, did I forget to break this pattern? And I grew up with a lot of trauma, which, you know, I used to kind of think when I was in my 20s, like, oh, all these people making excuses for themselves on Oprah, you know, and all kinds of things. Then life brings you to your knees by your 40s. You're like, we are being governed by patterns, and a lot of it does start in childhood, and we're human beings. We think our decisions are made through reason and logic, whereas actually they're almost all emotional. And so eventually you submit to it, and at first it's deflating, like, oh, why can't I break out of this? And then it's kind of liberating, like, all right, we all suck in some way. I'm going to go ahead and figure this out.
Awesome.
Sabir, you bring it out on me, Sabir. I love you so much. I just want to, like, grab you. Those who don't know Sabir very well, Sabir is the number one growth hacker that you will ever meet in your life. And he's a delightful human being who's spiritual. I'm giving you spiritual, just wonderful. He's the person that we bring in whenever a company tries to figure out how to sort of transcend and break through on e-com. Number one growth hacker right here in America is talking to you live. Like, so, but he's also a sweetheart. I brought him to Harvard. The students all fell in love with him. And I know we'll get to that, but that's why you bring it out. I become emotive when I'm around you, Sabir.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, and thank you for bringing me and trusting in me to do the things and allowing me to do the things and play a part in that journey of these amazing brands that you invest in and work with, and especially the teaching with Harvard. I think that was phenomenal. I mean, if you remember that moment in the lecture hall, you know, when I was standing there and I had a little bit of a pause in the very beginning. I choked up, right? I don't know if you remember that incident. That was not that I was dizzy or anything like that. Just like your kind of a background story with your mom, the person that was very inspirational for me. My mom has been inspirational, but a bigger person that was inspiration in my life was my dad. And before he could see all the things that I'm able to accomplish, he passed away. At the moment that he like literally handed off, you know, where he was retiring, and I would do the things that I'm doing right now to give him a great life and give him all the things for all the sacrifices. I choked up, actually. That's what happened to me at Harvard, you know, when I started talking, because it just out of nowhere, it just hit me. I went like, I wish my dad was alive to see that I'm guest lecturing at Harvard, and I choked up, you know.
Oh, so funny. First of all, I remember that. And I had a similar moment for me. I like, part of my journey was this feeling that the circumstances never let me be the best. You know what I mean? And I loved college. I went to Fordham Law at night, you know, and I was on law review. I did the best I could under the circumstances, but never got to be the best. And I had a moment of peace when I was at school teaching there. Like, this is nice. I've kind of completed the journey. And I remember one of my favorite moments from teaching at HBS in January was you. At the end of your set, first of all, you crushed that session, right? And part of my vision for that class with Len Schlesinger, which is one of the most amazing human beings, brilliant mind at Harvard, written like 12 books, and so great. Wow. It's like I'm co-teaching with like Babe Ruth, you know, wrong metaphor, but you get the point. And he had said, like, let's give them something they can never get anywhere else. And I said, in order to do that, though, we need to have Harvard meets Apex Technical School. Like, we need to get a little bit of granular so that, because it's important when you're an investor, a CEO, whatever, you become a little alienated. You got to be a practitioner, as Gary always says, right? Get into the weeds. Sabir knows things about the way the world works in e-com that you just don't even know, right? Like, oh, I didn't even realize that if you have 7 reviews, I don't know why it's 7 reviews on Amazon, but Sabir tells me it's 7 reviews and X number of ratings, all this little alchemy. Sabir does this for an hour and 20 minutes, and you see the class, they're like, because they're smart as hell, thinking like, this is gold. And one of my favorite moments, I still have his note on my desk. One of the students is at the blackboard at the end.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You ever see the movie, those out there, A Beautiful Mind? Sabir is writing all this like little diagrams, and then there's a student who I think has like 2 degree, one from Yale, wherever he's got this kid like genius level, and Sabir is teaching him. And I love it. I love, one of my joy in life is to extract what makes somebody really great and special and try to shine. Like I take a little magnifying glass and I sort of shine a laser on it, and expose it to the world. Like, so for you, watching you do that, knowing what you're capable and knowing how unique, and look how it's changed your life, right? I mean, you're sitting in a hotel room with Gronkowskis and you're teaching them, how to be calm and like, I don't know. I enjoy it. If anything, if I have a legacy, I'm not really sure what the meaning of life is about, and I'm not sure there is some vast meaning. But from a legacy standpoint, forget about trophies and monuments and degrees and all that crap that doesn't matter. Having maybe unlocked something in someone else and let them realize their full potential brings me a lot of joy. That feels like a life well lived. First, I want to do it for myself, which I have and I work hard at, and then doing it for a bunch of other people. Like, those are the things actually that I meditate on, and I say, that was a life well lived. And so watching you teach at Harvard, knowing your dad is looking upon you was one, and watching you freeze like that, I know what was going through your head, was one of my favorite moments.
Thank you for that. Actually, funny enough, with the Gronkowskis, it's good that you had warned them when they came in. Like literally, I landed at the hotel. They came in, they knocked on the door. They came in, sit down. I had not even unpacked yet. We sat down, and then like 3 hours. And then at one moment, like they said that, well, Matt told us you're very intense. We didn't realize you were this intense. We go like, we're very hungry. Can we at least order something? Can we order some food? Go like, okay, let's order some food.
30 seconds of setup for those playing along at home. I brought the Gronkowskis to Harvard because they're wonderful brothers, and Rob and his brothers do amazing things, but they also have a bunch of different businesses. So we brought them to school, and a lot of them are e-com. And we said, well, let's connect Sabir and them together. And they just hung out and they jammed for 3 hours and I guess they ate wings and things like that. If you're a Gronkowski, I assume it's all sorts of high caloric foods. I don't know what you had, but
yeah, so it was great.
What are we talking about today? I like talking about this stuff. But
all right, so here's the thing. We have like 30 minutes left, and what I want to do, even though the way I promote the show is that it's $100,000 in insights, but because you and I are from Queens and we're from Queens College alum, and we have taught at co-taught that course at courses at Harvard. I want to up the game, and we want to deliver in the next 30 minutes. I want to deliver $1 million in insights so that we can help out entrepreneurs, startup founders, people who have want to get on Shark Tank, all of that kind of stuff. I want to deliver in the next 30 minutes. I want to deliver over $1 million in insights. Between you and me, I think we can achieve that, and we are a very giving people.
Okay, good. I was thinking you were kind of an underachiever. I don't know why you're saying the bar's so low. Good, $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, I have to start the bar somewhere, So, given that we are in COVID, it's a different world right now, right? What is the most important question founders should be asking themselves right now, whether they're starting up or even established businesses? Because the whole landscape of how you do business has changed right now, given the world we live in.
Right. That's a great question. I like talking about this topic. I'll address it first from anybody who's had any kind of business. And it could be, just an early stage, a business of one, the business of your own life, really, right? We are in one of those once-in-a-generation events, let's hope, and once-in-a-100-year events, technically. And so I always say that every action has an opposite and equal reaction. And that is never more obvious and visible than when you're going through a crisis. So part of what I've been through some incredible crisis. I was there at 9/11 on the ground, and I helped oversee the rebuilding of the World Trade Center for 2 years. So my life has been one big forest fire, from when I was a kid. But what I would gain from it is that anytime I would enter a crisis, you would notice there's always an opportunity for growth and for development. So what I've been saying, if you run a business in the early stage, I think we were so back on our heels, and you're dealing with loss and you're grieving, that your first impulse is to rebuild exactly what you had before, what you're losing, right? It's like human nature. Like, don't take that away from me, damn pandemic. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reopen as fast as I can. But when you stabilize, you realize, wait, if I do that, I might be building a replica of what is now a relic of a bygone era, because the pandemic is changing the world forever. In a lot of ways, changing it for the better. This is horrifying, of course, but there are certain aspects of it that it's unlocked. And so my advice to a founder is stabilize your business. The name of the game has gone from profit to survival. That is true. I think everybody, don't kid yourself, right? Like, you need to extend your runway as long as possible. So don't kid yourself. 2, you need to audit all your assumptions. Everything that you assumed prior to pandemic, you need to audit and make sure that you're not operating on bad inputs. So what do I mean by that? We have one of our businesses that's brick and mortar, right? We were going through our numbers, trying to figure out how much runway we have to survive. And when you started auditing our assumptions, one of them was, oh, but all retail is going to be reopened again by June. We're going to be back to 80% capacity by June, and we're going to be 100% by December. I remember these meetings but how do you know what? Well, you can see the curve. They say it's about a 3-month cycle. That's what Italy went through, what Spain went through. Fast forward, everybody's about to shut down all over again. And I think maybe even in New York by October, some degree of it, right? So audit the assumptions and make sure that you're not operating on polluted insults. But once you stabilize and audit your assumptions, now begin to look for the aperture that this crisis has opened. And I promise you, somewhere this crisis has opened up a portal to a different way of doing things, to a different universe. One of them could have been in retrospect. What do I mean by that? Was there some aspect of your business that instinctively looked like an opportunity, but because you were so focused on doing what you were doing or executing your original business plan, that you sort of dismissed it as the side event? Like, I know the cupcakes are really moving and they're doing great, but we don't sell cupcakes. We sell sandwiches, right? But like, those cupcakes we're really selling, but I don't know how to do e-com, so I wouldn't know how to sell them anyway. Put the cupcakes on the back burner. All right, well, now might be time to sell those cupcakes, right? Like, so I think for every business, you got to spend time and trust me that it has opened up a portal in your life somewhere, but you got to look for it. And if you focus all your energies around fear and anxiety, last point, that if you're a business owner, I mean, this came up on Shark Tank once when Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, was telling Supergirl, wherever you are out there, was telling her, you're going to be out of business in 12 months. You are already insolvent and you just don't even know it. You're not, like, you're not savvy enough to realize it. And we got into it on the set. I love him, by the way. And he's wonderful and he gives it to you straight, which is also more valuable than the bullshit we often hear, right? But I disagreed with him because my point is they have been in business for 10 years. If you've been in business for 10 years, your statistical chance of being in business for 11 is very high. So my message to every entrepreneur out there, have faith that to persist is to prevail. To buy yourself yet another day is yet another day, right? And string together 5 days together and 2 more, and you have a week. Get another 30, like, got a month, right? That's math is wrong. You get my point. And so have faith that to persist is to prevail. Audit your old assumptions. Look for the opportunity, right? And I'll give you one really quick and easy. The one pattern that has changed forever is travel. Anybody who runs a company at my level, prior to this, we would run all over and FaceTime is so important and so forth. I don't know what it's going to take to get me on a plane to meet anybody ever again, right? But the positive is that if you're a business owner and you're trying to break into a new area, you can get anybody to do a Zoom call with you. Whereas before, I got to go to travel to the West Coast. I got to drop $3,000 on that trip. And then they may only give me a half an hour anyway. Now the bar to getting access to people is a lot lower. The bar to raising money, harder because of risk tolerance, but actually to access the source of capital easier because they give somebody 20 minutes on the phone and sort of say, hey, it's not going to work. That got a lot easier. 3, the expectations on how you assemble your staff have changed. You now can assemble a staff that's completely virtual, and no one's going to be like, oh, this is just some kid operating at a startup. Like, no, people understand that you can assemble talent all over the country, and it's okay that you're not in a centralized place. 4, oh, no WeWork, no problem, right? Sitting in your pajamas, like right now I got my shorts on. You can't see, but I look perfect fine, right? Like, same backdrop. It's all just a Potemkin village. It's a house of cards, like, right? So you can go ahead and you can launch with much less than you could have launched before. And those are exciting. Like, to me, most fascinating, I think the country has completely mismanaged this crisis. I've said it before. It pains me, having worked for government for 8 years in various capacities. Nonetheless, it will end. Every pandemic seems to end. They seem to end after 2 cycles. A lot of great news today on the vaccine front. But regardless, it will come to an end. What will remain, though, is the efficiency on technology that was just laying there on the floor, that we weren't utilizing it. And also the resistance from curmudgeon-y people like me in their 40s and 50s and whatnot who didn't want to have people work in virtual offices because we were ignorant. That has changed too. So the world will get a lot more efficient. We're going to have to endure the pain and the suffering, obviously, to get there. So maybe that's a little bit of a pep talk, Sabir. I don't know if it's $1 million of insight. It's more like, if you've been doing it already, you're in business before, you have what it takes to make $1 and turn it into 2. But if you don't look for the aperture, the portal that opened up, you just try to hold on rather than let go, then you're going to jeopardize your future.
I mean, that's great advice. I mean, I come across different types of entrepreneurs. You know, they tend to be really good at the craft that they're really good at. For instance, product developer. They're amazing at product design. They can produce a product, but the business side of actually selling that product or the marketing of that product, they may not have that skill set. So I come across a lot of those kind of examples that somebody is really good at the craft that they're in,
Yeah.
that they have been really good at, and then when it comes to actual selling and sales, the business of doing that thing is different, you know. And some entrepreneurs understand that, and they bring on the right co-founder to help them, either it's technology or sales and marketing or PR or whatever. But other ones, they try to do it on their own. But the thing is, it's not that necessarily that the product failed, right? It's the product may have been amazing. It just, you know, it never, I was listening to a motivational YouTube video, and it said that if you look at ideas that never came to fruition, right? And they're screaming at you at your deathbed, you know, yeah, like I came to you and you never realized me. You did not realize me to the fullest potential. But I think also the entrepreneurship aspect of it also is I can do it. I can do it myself. I can do everything myself. So when you're looking at that and you're looking at the landscape of like funding and is it the right time to fund? When is the right time to fund? Before COVID, after COVID, during COVID, does it make sense? What should entrepreneurs like if you're seeking capital? What should you prepare yourself for, like in order to win a pitch with Matt Higgins?
I love that. You had a lot of good nuggets right there that I want to kind of unpack a couple of very important points, right? I always say this, but it's worth repeating over and over again. The single greatest arbitrage in business and in your personal life is self-awareness. Because you don't need to go ahead and buy self-awareness. No one needs to give you self-awareness. It's a little bit like Buddhism, right? You just need to wake up, you know, and wake up to the moment. If you have self-awareness, you're going to identify the shortcomings where you need help. You're going to identify areas of your life that are blocking you, that are making you unwilling to admit defeat or the need to pivot. Everything sort of stems from self-awareness. So when I'm looking at somebody and I'm evaluating and it's a little bit psychological, right? I'm looking at, do they have self-awareness? Because from self-awareness flows everything else. I always say the fish stinks at the head, right? I can find any significant material problem in any organization, and I could trace it all the way back up to the CEO and the founder. So if you don't have self-awareness, so number one, reflect on that. Think about that. So let's talk about something specific that then flows from self-awareness. If I have a situation, and you said it's so great, you have a great product, but I know you're an engineer by heart, right? And you know, maybe you got one left brain's working a little harder, the right brain, I don't know, but you don't have the full brain that's not working in tandem. And there's something maybe missing that I can see that this is a brilliant product, but you don't have inside yourself everything that it would take to get somebody to actually buy it. And so that's okay. Then what I'm judging you on is, did you have the insight, the wherewithal to identify that you needed somebody alongside you and then recruit them, right? Or did you say, that's okay, I'll just hire like a VP of marketing. It's no big deal. So number one threshold decision is, if I don't have this core competency executed flawlessly and somebody is dying to go ahead and, you know, bring it to life, will the business fail? If the answer to that is yes, then you probably need a co-founder or at least an equitized partner who has that sort of skill set, right? Unfortunately, when I see a great product and I see it's not getting traction, what I normally find is that the founder, like you said at the top, thought they could do everything themselves. They were a little disdainful, subtly disdainful that skill set is important. I sometimes see this with analytical brains where they're a little bit like, yeah, we'll just hire some like marketer, salesperson, you know, kind of propaganda, you know, lead like that. Do that at your own peril. So it should start with respect for everybody's role that they have to play in society. You may not want it to be about your life. You may be grateful that you're not about that, but you should have respect that that's an important role. Because if a tree falls in a forest, no one's around to hear it. It doesn't matter that you have a great product. Nobody bought it. So I'm looking for those little proxies of self-awareness, as I call them, of respect. And lastly, so anybody looking to pitch me or pitch anyone, remember what you're being evaluated on fundamentally. You're not being evaluated on whether you have every skill set within you necessary to make this company a success. You're being evaluated on whether you have the capacity to recruit, deploy, and aggregate all the skills and resources necessary to make this thing successful. So what I find founders don't do is they don't simply say, hey, I'm really great at this. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm so passionate. I'm really not great at this. But Mary over here is really great at that. And I got my eye on Bill. And by the way, I love Mary and I love Bill. Because now you're telling me, not only are you self-aware enough to go get Mary and Bill, you are a good enough leader to recognize that they have something you don't possess, which tells me people are going to run through a wall for you, right? So I censored myself, Sabir, so you don't have to go ahead. I channeled my Gary Vee without saying it. So I know this is intangible, and you might say that's not $1 million worth of value. Actually, it's $1 million worth of value, right? Because a lot of the interventions I have with a CEO or somebody I'm investing in, I say, look, like you're putting so much stress on yourself because you're depressed that you are inadequate. And actually, the only area you're inadequate on is recognizing that you're inadequate in this area and going ahead and getting and backfilling. And until you relieve yourself of that monkey on your back, you're never going to be successful. So, good stuff, Sabir.
Yep.
The heart.
All sounds good.
The heart.
So I have one of our viewers, Mark Peterson, is asking a question.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah. Hi. He says, I need help, but I don't have dollars to hire. How do I get help? I mean, this is a very good question. Like if you have talented people that you know of and you need their help, but you cannot pay them, what are some creative solutions to that?
Well, let's be honest first. I don't want to give like Pollyannish nonsense, whatever. Number one, like you need to go get some money. And if the dream is worth pursuing, put in the time and effort to go ahead and get enough, at least resources to get the thing off the ground. Like I generally don't like when I get pitched on an idea because it feels like you're trying to solicit me to go on a rescue mission. It's like, oh, I don't need another job. I like to
I already have 10.
Right. I have 19 jobs. I want to give you 3 things of impact that could help change the trajectory of the business, which benefits me because I'm an investor. What I don't want is a rescue of another job. So be honest with yourself. If it isn't worth you going out and working 3 jobs to go ahead and get some extra money to get it going, it's not worth my time either. 2, like the problem with having your back up against the wall and having literally no resources is that you then enlisted co-founders unnecessarily. And you end up having like 4 or 5 people who are in your business because you didn't have money to hire anybody. So you gave that person equity. Next thing you know, you got 5 co-founders. And statistics show, the magical combination seems to be 2. When you have too many people, what happens over time is as the business starts to get traction, you have unequal levels of contribution. Just based on human nature. There's the free rider problem. One person's like, hey, I'll sit back. Well, Bob seems to be killing himself. I don't want to do it. I have another job anyway. I just did this as a way to get some equity. You'll eventually will resent one element of that 5-headed monster, and that will potentially destroy your entire company. So I don't have any brilliant advice for somebody who says they don't have it yet. Now, if what you're saying is, I got a really great idea, all right? It's to create this new platform. It's going to be the Airbnb of boats. You know what I'm saying? And all these boats, who the F wants to own a boat? Let's do the Airbnb of boats, whatever, right? So you have the idea. And I really understand how to sell sponsorship on a platform because I used to work at Airbnb and I know how to tap into that, but I don't have the technical skills. If only I had a CTO as my co-founder, then that is a worthwhile endeavor, right? Like trying to assemble the pieces to go ahead and execute your dream. Then I could do that. And I think that's about salesmanship, and that's about being honest about your idea. Here's one of my favorite lines in a movie ever made is from The Social Network, which is all about Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, right? And he's being sued by the I never know how to say their names, but the Bitcoin brothers, right? And they're in a deposition, and he has an outbreak. He's being accused of stealing their idea, and he goes, you know what? If you had invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. It's such like a simple point. Like ideas are cheap. Like people are way too protective of their idea, feel like somebody's gonna like steal it, and they hold back. And I think that's nonsense. Be evangelical. People want to copy ideas that have already been proved out and have traction. When you only need to worry about when somebody's stealing your idea when it's called competition. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, that was a really great idea. Nobody does that. So my advice is if you really want to solicit or elicit people to go ahead and join your cause, be a little bit more open and communicative about it.
See, one of the things that surprises me with that question is that we're not in 1995, right? It's 2020, right? When you have access to platforms where if you want people, if you believe in that idea that you're working on, you could put it up on a platform like Kickstarter, for instance, and then you could get that funding to actually see your way through so that you can have access to capital. There's another platform, Republic, that allows you to do that. If it's related to some sort of a cause, you could do a GoFundMe. In 1995, I couldn't do that because those things didn't exist in 1995, right? But it's 2020. Those things exist right now, right? You can create a very strong LinkedIn network and reach out to people and have that sort of a virtual type of a relationship with them and seek out advice, even publicly or DM or something like that. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like utilizing those kind of platforms to actually prove yourself to get it to that $1 million mark in revenue or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about this item. I'm glad you kind of brought it up because my early background was in PR, right? It was in public relations. And let's go back circa 1998. I have a great idea. I have a great business. I want the world to know about my business. I have to go ahead and pitch a reporter to basically cover my business, find a noteworthy aspect of my business so they would put it in the paper and telegraph my story. That's a lot of intermediate steps for me to get my message out that are kind of pretty remote, especially for a small business owner, right? Fast forward, you have the ability to develop a one-to-one relationship with anybody you're targeting over time, and you be your own reporter and your own cable network and your own content creator. So great point, Sabir. Like, there is no excuse for you not forming a community around people that are in your area. Where people make a mistake, this is where Gary is great with his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, which I would recommend to folks, is they become transactional too early. It's like there's no foreplay. And I think the foreplay in the business world around social media is becoming a subject matter expert in the general domain that you're interested in launching a specific business before you ever launch it or before you talk about it that provides value to the recipient. So let's make that a little less abstract because it's a convoluted statement. But let's go back to the Airbnb of boats or whatever, right? Don't try to get people to join your Airbnb of boats platform. Talk about boating. Do articles about why it really doesn't make sense to own a boat. Why do we own boats? It's so inefficient. Here are the economics of owning a boat. But we all love boats. Wouldn't it be great if we had more access to boats, right? Be a leader in the subject matter domain before you become transactional. And LinkedIn is the most incredible platform mankind ever created that enables a content creator without a following to post something and reach thousands of people. And it only builds over time. So to get specifically, I don't know what anybody's idea is out there, but if you have an idea and a specific one, start with the general and start creating content every single day, interacting with people who are in that area, be on the radar of every other boat person out there and make sure you're commenting on their comments so they see it. It goes viral. Put in the hard work, which goes back to my point, Sabir. I get pitched and I'm like, oh, you're asking me to go on a rescue mission because you don't want to do the hard work. And that's not fair. I killed myself. I got up at 4 a.m. You know what I mean? I died to get here today. There's so much pain and suffering. Why are you trying to bypass that step? And it's not even that hard. You just have to create content for a predictable period of time. So I think it's never been easier to get your story. It's just people kind of go around it the wrong way. So one piece of advice for everybody, lean into LinkedIn. Instagram is nice if you're a Kardashian. It's nice. It's fun. It's like candy. I like scrolling through it. But there's no viral component of LinkedIn. And it doesn't really, of Instagram, sorry. And it doesn't really convert. So while you think that's a prize, you're looking in the wrong place. You should be spending your time on LinkedIn.
So I think unknowingly, someone like Gary Vee actually created his kind of a personal brand. There was no term like that before when he started. If you look at Wine Library episode 1 with poor lighting and poor camera, and his dad walks in and gives him the eye and goes like, "What are you doing?" Right? Get off the camera, get back to work. He was creating this personal brand. How important is personal branding of the founder, in addition to or separate from the brand that they're working on?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think even less important to me is the heat that a founder throws off. You know what I mean? Their footprint that they occupy in people's minds and visibility is more about the founder being comfortable owning their responsibility to tell the story. I've seen founders who want to intellectualize their way to a space. I think there's room to have another SoulCycle competitor, so I'm going to do a spin class, only there are points on a screen, and I'm going to intellectualize my way because it's a big TAM, total addressable market, and it's all here on the Excel sheet. but they don't have a story to tell, nor do they want to tell it. And I think businesses are at this day and age, especially, if you're a founder, you're a leader, you need to tell your story, because if you're not confident enough to tell your story, then why should I listen to your story? Why should I buy your product? So you don't need to be Gary Vee. I say to Gary Vee all the time. People draw the wrong inference from Gary. They think that they too need to live in the Truman Show. I don't want to live in the Truman. I don't even want to walk down the street with Gary. It's so uncomfortable. Like,
very good movie, by the way.
Honestly, like, if I ever get recognized, it's sort of horrifying to me, unless it's like a sweet interaction, like, hey, thank you for your post and stuff like that. But I don't need that. And so you don't need to live in the Truman Show to be effective, but you do need to own your story. You need to own why you care about. People care about people. They don't care about companies and brands, not for a very long time. They care about people. So, and two, I want to back companies where it seems like the founder was put on this earth to create this company, right? Like, whatever, the universe conspired in your favor and it birthed you because you needed to bring this sort of forward. I'm a little bit less reluctant. I'm more reluctant to back people who just sort of intellectualize their way into a problem and want to solve it. You can compensate that by talking so passionately about the problem, right? Like, this needs to be fixed, and I quit my job to go fix it. But if you're not willing to at least do that, then it's not of interest to me. So own your story and be confident in sharing it. And by the way, if shame is getting in the way, stop. Nobody cares. Like, people are unfortunately or fortunately are too concerned with their own problems and lives and the short period of time we have on the earth to really give a shit about whatever you did or what you have going through. So to the extent to which you have shame, you're better off sharing it and turning it into an asset. Think about it. I'm a high school dropout with a GD. It's the greatest asset I have. I love sharing that story. I don't really care what anybody thinks. You know why? After that, I went to law school at night for 4 years. I became the youngest press secretary in the mayor, and I got here. You will get there too. So whatever shame you have that brought you to your knees, you grew up poor, you got divorced, you failed in your marriage, whatever you went to prison for a period of time, I don't own it, redeem yourself, and understand that you will eventually be judged not by where you started, but where you ended, and how much distance you cover in between those 2 points.
Yeah, don't let the circumstances define you. You know,
also, who cares? On your fortunately, I had cancer. I say fortunately because I got to glimpse what it's going to be like on my deathbed. I really did. For a period of 3 days, I thought it was, pretty advanced. I had a huge tumor in my testicle. Awkward, I know. Oversharing. But I had to rip it out. Also awkward. But, a lot of your male identity is wrapped up in that body part. And for 3 days, I thought I might be glimpsing the end. And what I found is, like, most of the things I think about on a daily basis, especially the ones that stress me out, do not hold up against the juxtaposition of imminent death. So the things I think about are irrelevant if I were dying. But it turns out that I am dying. We all are every single day. We just don't know when. And so that really made me think, like, oh, that's kind of liberating. Because in the end, you know what? I didn't really care about the slice. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about, you know what I care about? My kids. Like, did I do right by them? Did I pass it on? And the little moments that I regretted. You know what I mostly cared about, Sabir? When I thought I regretted the times I regretted. I was like, oh, shit, I spent a little bit too much time regretting whatever it is I did that day or resenting. And I try to hold on to that and realize, oh, life in some extent is going to bring you to your knees in your end. These are the 5 things I'm going to think about. I'm going to work backwards from my epitaph, and I'm going to write it now so that I know where I end up, and that liberates me. So back to my point, if shame is holding you back, let it go.
Awesome. Actually, going back to the concept of, Kickstarter or GoFundMe or any of these kinds of things, especially if you're making a product, right? In this day and age, nobody's stopping you from putting up a Shopify site or putting up a Amazon site. I mean, they all come with templates and stuff. You could start selling like literally this afternoon if you have your product on you. So people procrastinate. That's one of the conversations. I mean, it's funny you said that people are, they go like, hey, I had that idea. You always have that uncle in the room during Thanksgiving that's looking at an infomercial on TV that's running and says, oh, I had that idea in 1986 and, this guy stole this idea from me. Like, no, that person doesn't even know who you are, why didn't you do it then in that scenario,
Can we talk about that for a second? So my favorite, if I was stuck on a desert island, I had one piece of writing to read over and over again, it would be an essay by Emerson called Self-Reliance. And it opens up talking about this concept about the indignity that you suffer and the anguish you suffer when you recognize your idea that was brought forth by another and you're forced to take your idea from others? Why do we dismiss our own insights, and yet we're forced to take it from bards and sages down the road, right? Like, it talks about this beautiful point, and like, you don't get any credit for that idea, right? That you let somebody else run with it. That's why I always say a dream deferred is basically a decision to relinquish its pursuit to another. The dream deferred is a decision to relinquish its pursuit to another, because whatever you come up with right now, this very moment, you were able to glean that insight based on the full data body of information that surrounded you. So context, and other people have the same context. So somebody out there is coming up with the same idea. It's why there's 3 vaccines being raced right now, not 1. You know what I mean? And so I feel really passionate about, if you could just break through. And so what's the point of then, why do entrepreneurs do this? Why does anybody? We tend to erect barriers to our own success. We tend to resign ourselves to incremental progress when we could have made step changes. We think, I need to first go from a lemonade stand to an orange juice stand to my own, whatever candy store. Then maybe I could have 3. Like, a lot of times that's actually not true. And I learned that lesson early on. My wife, my amazing, I always have to drop Sarah's name into everything I do, because she's my force.
She's incredible.
She's my force multiplier and my Swiss Army knife, but she taught me something really important. She can build any house from scratch. She's a contractor, oddly. And like, we first started dating, we did an apartment together, and then we did a little house, and I would bring the Dunkin' Donuts to her and all the contractors and watch her like make this masterpiece, which was just so fun, right? Like, but we did the first house we did. It took 9 months or whatever the amount of time, right? It was a tiny little house, and we made a little bit of money, and we were like, hey, high five. Then we like got really ambitious. We did a really big house. And amazing looking back, it also took 9 months. And yet we made 6 times the amount of money, and we sold it on first day. And I was like, wow, that's kind of amazing. Like, you would think that it would take 6 times the amount of effort. And then I took a step. I said, why is that? And I had her walk me through all the subcontractors that you had to hire on the first house: electrical, sheetrocking, foundation, whatever. Walk me through all the contractors you have to do on the second house: electrical, sheetrock. And we're like, oh, it's because what makes something hard in life is people. You're managing people problems, right? So the same guy who doesn't show up to do the windows on the little house is the same one who doesn't show up on the windows in a big house. And I have learned, because of that little insight, and I've watched it play out in my entire life, that a $1 million business is just as aggravating as a $100 million one, except the $100 million one may change your life, and vice versa. So for those of you out there who are erecting barriers to your own success because you don't think you have the requisite expertise, bullshit, go get it. It's called YouTube and the internet, or Google with your mother, as Gary likes to say. Or 2, if you don't think you're ready or equipped, like, if you know how to manage people problems and get through situations, and you have grit, fortitude, do not wait to pursue a bigger opportunity, because there's an opportunity cost involved in every single thing you do. When you start a new business, it's 3 to 5 years before you're going to reap the success of that business. Those 3 to 5 years are gone. You can never get them back. If in a parallel universe, you could have used those 3 to 5 years to pursue an even bigger opportunity, like, you now just wasted time. That's not an indictment on small things. I love small things and small opportunities, and but just live an intentional life. Don't erect barriers to your own success, your own progress, by assuming you need incremental change. Consider a step change, a big change, and consider reaching.
I mean, that actually leads me to something that you do as religiously as I do with this show. That's the manifestor mindset. That's a live show that you do on LinkedIn and podcast and so on. And it's actually on your website. I've seen it on matthiggins.com. So talk to us about that. Where the inspiration came from? Yeah. Why are you doing it? How does that help entrepreneurs and others in life?
So the simple premise on why I do it is on the one hand, you have the creators and the dreamers, right? The ones who can kind of see the future, see around corners. A lot of us have that inside of you just said it before, right? That uncle's like, that damn infomercial, like, I thought about that, right? Like, so we all have some insight that is unique to us or special. And then there is execution and implementation, right? Which I think many of us don't have the wherewithal, the ability, the confidence, all these things that get us stuck. They get us stuck from taking the idea and translating it into action. And then we see these larger than life figures like an Elon Musk. Whatever you think of Elon Musk, I don't care. You cannot deny the fact that he has been able to simultaneously manifest crazy insights and impose them upon the universe relatively successfully in the form of a self-driving, a Tesla, and on and on and on, right? There's the Jeff Bezos who can create a bookstore and defy conventional wisdom and pivot 1,000,000 times to become cloud computing, everything else, right? So the purpose of Manifestor is to both take people who have made the ability to unite vision with execution and marshal the resources to bring it to reality and decide how do they do that so that I can give people the confidence of saying, you can do it too, right? Like I don't worry about the vision. I know you have it out there. I worry about the ability to bring it to life, what to take. And a lot of it is psychological because that's the thing that usually gets in the way, right? Fish stinks at the head. So the purpose of my little segment in the middle of the pandemic is I wanted to give something back was maybe I can inspire people to believe while they go through this really hard, difficult period in their personal and professional lives to say like, hey, now's an opportunity to unlock that little glimmer that you have inside you, but you've been holding back.
I mean, you've had an amazing list of guests, who's who, across the board. Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing show.
I love doing it. I feel like I haven't had a time to communicate. I've been wanting to get these ideas out of me, and this gave me an opportunity to do it. Again, like I said, another window opened, right? I would never be doing this if it wasn't for the pandemic. And hopefully somebody out there saw something I said or learned something about my background that maybe inspired them. And I don't know, that never would have happened if we weren't in the situation we're in right now. So that's like, I always try to look for something that can balance out the negatives.
So we did touch on this a little bit earlier about Harvard Business School. How did that come about, and where should people find out more about that?
Oh, thank you. And let's make this the last one, just because I got to go and I got 10. But I always wanted to teach, and just something I never got a chance to do and to fulfill. And I always wanted to be at Harvard, right? Just an aspiration. So it wasn't just teach; it was sort of teach at Harvard. And with my partner Jesse Darris, I've invested in a lot of direct-to-consumer businesses over the years that have done really well. But what I noticed is, and Jesse's noticed this too, is the world has changed dramatically around DTC. You need an omni-channel strategy. You need a brick-and-mortar strategy. Let's put an asterisk in that and see what that's about, right? That the world had sort of evolved, but a lot of the conventional wisdom was stuck in 2010. And I thought that's actually very dangerous, because if you're a founder and you're going to B-school or you're reading that, you're making a lot of old assumptions when you're launching your business, and you're going to hurt you. So for example, and you know this well, Sabir, that you can create a whole direct-to-consumer e-commerce business based on arbitrage with digital customer acquisition. And the reality is, as you know, that isn't going to work, right? Because now you have all the mature brands who are competing against those same eyeballs and bidding up the dollars, right? This is pre-pandemic. So the purpose of the class, I thought, was let me bring all the insights that I have gleaned through Jesse and others, let me bring them to an academic environment like Harvard. So somebody who's kind of gone through that school, who's going to launch, I could save them time, right? Like, I just love attacking inefficiencies. Like, well, that's really inefficient. Why did that founder have to learn that, with the business? Couldn't they have learned that prior to? And that was the thing. And the school has been amazing and gracious. I partnered up with Len Schlesinger. We did 22 classes over 4 days in January, had 29 speakers. And it was extraordinary, and you were one of them.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. We spent this past 60 minutes for all the golden nuggets, the $1 million insights, for being part of This Week with Sabir. Really appreciate you joining us and sharing your knowledge and sharing your time with us, and really appreciate you having you as a guest on the show.
Thank you. And one thing for anybody out there, follow me on LinkedIn, but Matt Higgins. But most importantly, Sabir and I, about a couple of months ago, did what I believe is a masterclass on customer acquisition, e-com pivoting. So if you're a business out there and you're still feeling uncomfortable figuring things out, watch that segment. Forget about me. You can just fast forward every time I talk. But what Sabir did is real. That's $1 million. If this was $1 million, that was 10. Whatever 10x of whatever you think his value was, unless it's 0, because that's not true. It was worth a lot. You can go ahead.
It is on matthiggins.com, so that video is there. So if you go onto that site, you should be able to find it.
Yeah, check that out. It's incredible. And I'll leave you with this. In life, you normally focus on strategy, right? Strategy really matters. I'd say in social, digital, e-com, tactics actually matter more than strategy, or just as much. You can do everything right and break your heart when you're like, but nobody bought it. It's like, well, because you screwed up one little thing around SEO, or your page loads too slow, like little things. That's what I love about Sabir. I've never encountered anybody who understands the little things that are tactical that make all the difference. And what I found is people make the wrong conclusion, like, oh, I guess my business sucked or my product sucked. No, it's because you had the tactics wrong. So remember I said tactics matter. And if you're a CEO, I don't care that you're sitting in the top of the food chain. You need to understand not the tactics, but the tactics exist. So you can hold your team accountable, go get the tactics. Like, don't tell me my Amazon conversion rate sucks or my customer acquisition costs are. Have you audited everything about it? And once you know that the tactics exist, it's a little bit like law school. You don't have to memorize the code. You just have to know there is one. Then you can go out and get it. So watch my segment on matthiggins.com or on LinkedIn. Sabir, I got a jet.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a lot of fun spending time with you. Go Queens College, and I'll talk to you soon. All right?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very